Hey everyone, welcome to the Afterlife podcast. This is your host, Pooja Chilakuri, and today I am very excited to introduce my guest to you. Jane Asher has always been a natural connector who has enjoyed a successful career in media and the music industry, notably at major radio stations in San Diego and Santa Barbara and Virgin Records, based out of Chicago. Jane is also the author of a book, The Next Room, and hosts a podcast by that same name. She interviews professionals and practitioners from diverse backgrounds about death, dying, grief, afterlife, and cultural traditions surrounding the journey that we all must ultimately make. Jane has been a part of a team for 5 years that has built homes in Tijuana for families in need through the Lutheran Border Concerns. She has traveled to El Salvador to feed the homeless, Malaysia to help build a school, and Armenia to work with women and children. Jane lives in San Diego with her husband, Tom. She is answering her passion-filled purpose by recording her podcast and writing daily. And despite being so very busy, she has taken the time to speak with us today. I am so grateful and welcome to the show, Jane.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. It's interesting when you do a podcast, um, you're always the one that's focused on the guest. And so it's really fun for me to be on the flip side of it and to be invited on a show. So big gratitude to you and your listeners for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it, Jane. And let me tell you, your book, The Next Room, I finished reading it about 2 weeks ago. And since then, I've been very excited about us finally meeting and me getting to ask you some questions. So I am not going to waste any time. We're
Okay.
going to dive right into it because this book fascinates me because you co-authored it with your mom after
hmm
she transitioned to the other side. And that is not a story you get to hear every day. So, yes, please share with us what led to this.
Oh boy, that is a great question. I'll try to be as concise as possible, and I pray to be for clarity and good communication skills. So, um, my mother, clearly my best friend on the planet. I'm the baby of six, and my entire life I just had this just extraordinary bond with her, almost to the point where I felt like I was her mom. I was always babying her, and anything I could do to make her life better when I would see her. Just a great lady. So when she transitioned in 2010, rightfully I was devastated. My entire family was. My dad and my mom had been married 62 years. So he's this big bear of a man who's lost, wandering around the house looking for his heart. Um, and so it was really difficult on all of us children, all the grandchildren, everyone that met her. Um, really loved her because she was just very direct, but very fair. Um, and I don't know, she just had this inner guidance system that you were very drawn to. So she leaves. My dad's devastated. My oldest sister called me and said, "Hey, we've got to get dad out of Michigan. It's too cold. How about we send him out to see you?" I was turning 50. Unbeknownst to me, my husband was planning a surprise birthday party. And she's like, we'll get dad out of the snow, gives Cal and myself a break because dad had been living with them. He didn't have the heart to live alone. And he also didn't want to go back to Florida, which is where he and my mother, that they were snowbirds and they would always go to Florida. So I'm like, oh, I love it. Great. Send dad out to see me. So the wheels got in motion to send dad out here for a full month. Had two kids in high school, and it was great. It was just awesome. So I get the kids out the door to school one day, and he came out of his bedroom and he was like, Janie, I want to talk to your friend. And I was like, Dad, you're going to have to be a lot more, you're going to have to be a lot more clear about that. I have a lot of friends. Who do you want to speak to? And he said, the one that does seances and stuff. And I started laughing. I'm like, oh, my friend Pam. Well, Pam, well-known psychic medium. I had been friends with her since I was on the radio in Santa Barbara. Really tuned in woman. And I knew the psychic part of Pam, but Pam doesn't promote the medium side because, in her words, it kind of brings out a little bit more, a harder clientele to deal with because there's a lot of grief. So I didn't really even think much about it. I mean, I know her well, but she, like I said, she doesn't promote the medium side. So I was like, Dad, I don't know what you think she can do for you, but I'll give her a call and see if she would talk to you. I called Pam. I said, my dad, deep grief. Mom just left not too long ago. Um, and she said, absolutely, I'll talk to him. So that set the stage for how the book came to be because my father came out here. I parked him in the backyard with my friend long distance. He was on my landline. I go inside to prep dinner. I go around the side of the house and I kept peeking and he's on the phone and 20 minutes and 30 minutes and 40 minutes. I'm like, oh, what did you do here? You stuck your grieving dad on a long distance phone call, with your friend who makes really good money doing this for a living. And finally I could see it hung up. I go out in the backyard. Tears are streaming down his face, and I'm thinking, "Oh, no, what'd I do?" I thought I was helping him, but in fact, I intensified his grief, and I started apologizing profusely, and he was like, "No, no, it's okay. She was here." And I'm like, "Who was here?" And he was like, your mother was here. Come on, we gotta go listen." And he bolts across my living room, comes out through the kitchen into the garage, which is where I am now, my little studio, sit down, and sure enough, there was a recording of their conversation.
Mhm.
So Dad got the party started, Pooja.
Jane, I don't know. When you're sharing this, I have goosebumps because how did you take, like, I have to be honest with you, how did you take it? Because I would have been stunned and not known what to do with that.
You know, I think because, Pam was a good friend of mine, and we used to have her on the radio station when I worked the morning show with Terry in Santa Barbara. And so Pam would come on periodically, and we would have listeners call in with their questions, and Pam would be on this phone line, and the listener would ask the question, then Pam would like do a reading through the phone. So
Mhm.
I knew the depth of her. I don't know. She said we all have the gifts, right? But she's really tuned in. She's like this little fine-tuned radio station. But as she's pointed out, it's no different than, you know, say you're a brain surgeon and you work on brains every day, you're going to get quite good at it.
Yeah.
Or if whatever it is, whatever skill set it is. And so for 40 years, this woman was tuning into people and she just could pick it up. So I didn't I was kind of amazed because I didn't realize that that's what she was gonna do for my dad. I had no idea.
Mhm.
And once we sat down and we were sitting side by side in the studio and we're listening to her phone call, it was abundantly clear that
Mhm.
it was my mom. I
Yes.
mean, she was saying things to my dad that were only the 2 of them had shared,
Yeah.
and the wording and the way that she was saying things, um, and she also knew that I would be the one that would be able to connect my dad with her because throughout my life, I'm the baby of 6, I moved out to California, everybody else is in Michigan. My folks were very open to the interesting friends that I had made along the way. California's known to be, the land of the
Yes.
fruits and the nuts.
Yeah.
And I really bonded with the woo-woo community. I love it. I embrace it.
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
ashamed of it. I dig
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
so she intuitively knew that I would be able to reach the love of her life so that because she had seen how despondent he was and he's walking around the house all like he was doing, I'm just marking time,
Oh.
I don't know why I'm still here. And it really kind of ticked off the family because it was like, dude, you're healthy, you're alive, get busy living or get busy dying kind of thing. And basically that's what my mom said to him. She kind of like smacked him, through the cosmos, through the next room, from the other side, and said, stop moping, get over it. You have so much to live for. And by the way, you're going to be around for a long time. So you better get busy.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my gosh. And she was right about everything. I mean, he lived till he was 91. And I mean, he lived right up until he checked out very quietly, just on his own terms. Boom, heart attack, see ya.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was astonishing. So he really, I give thanks to him all the time, because had he not come out to California and spent that month with us and asked me specifically to speak with this friend of mine who's a psychic medium,
Mhm.
I don't think this book
Would have.
would have happened.
Yeah.
Um, I always thought I was going to write a book, and I always thought it'd be a really cool idea to write a book with my mom. I even gave her a journal one Christmas and said, can you write down your wisdom and write down things you want me to know? And she's like, what do you think, I'm going to die? And she never did. If she did write in the journal, I never found it. She probably, donated it. Um, but I had no idea it was going to turn into this. My dad made this happen.
Yes. You actually answered another question while I was listening to you, because I was wondering if that helped your dad process his grief.
Oh,
Yeah,
so much.
so
So
much, right?
much. Yeah, it was. And I'm in no way endorsing going to a psychic medium over a grief counselor, or speaking to someone, maybe your clergy or your pastor, your priest, or your whatever, your
Yeah,
spiritual guidance counselor.
yeah,
However, in my dad's case, and he was a very religious guy, church every Sunday, full on Christian, he was open enough, they both were open enough to receiving other guidance.
yeah.
And for some reason, he intuitively knew. And so after he spoke with Pam, such a calm washed over him, and such a confidence that
Yeah.
he indeed would be reunited with the love of his life
Yes.
once he was done with his earthly position, but not until. And so she just kept saying, she kept encouraging him to continue. I'm looking at them right now, to continue life, engage with the family, get out, help other people, impart his wisdom while he was here in the earthly form, because he was really a wise guy, and really a wise guy too. Very funny,
Yeah.
kind of inappropriate a lot, which is great, one of those old school World War II vets that didn't have much of a filter,
Yeah.
but he was honored for that side.
Yeah.
So yes, it really helped him with his grief. It was remarkable. And from that first phone call, which I have the recording still, um, what do you give a guy that has everything except the love of his life by his side? I gifted him a yearly conversation with my friend Pam.
Hmm.
He only wanted to do it once a year. It wasn't needy or anything. And he always wanted to do it around her birthday, which is April 17th. And he would say he was calling mom. And
Yeah.
so for his birthday in February every year, I'd go, okay, your birthday gift this year, you get a full hour, get your questions together, maybe try to ask her some, because he just wanted to hear how much my mom loved him. He
Oh,
wanted to hear what a great provider he was. He wanted to, it was like an ego boost. And then my mom kept trying to like get him to do other things,
yeah. Yeah.
and she would say, and Pam had never been to their home before, but Pam would say, Don, your wife Betty is telling me right now, you have got to stop moping
Yeah.
around the house. You've got to stop. She said, you're wandering. She's showing me that you're wandering around the yard, putzing, but you're all down in the mouth because she's not there. And she wants you to know she's right there with you. She's just changed energy forms. So you need to get busy and engage with the human beings on this side and not waste any more time grieving her. So yeah, it was really helpful. And he
That,
did. He got busy living. I have to say, hats off to the big guy. He gave us another, I don't know, close to 8 years.
that's pretty incredible, Jane. And
Yeah.
as I'm listening to you, I am smiling because I really want to appreciate your mom,
Mm.
because here's a lesson that I'm taking away from this. She has a very expanded perspective from where
Oh
she's
yeah.
at. right? And this life, this planet can be very difficult. And,
Ugh,
what did she do? She motivated your dad to still fulfill and live to the fullest whatever days were remaining for him. So,
right,
to listen to you relaying what she was telling him, it gives me a lot of hope for the sacredness of life and to live life here until until our time runs out. And
right.
also, your book, something else that I want to share with you is that there was a synchronicity or a coincidence that happened with me while I was reading your book. And I'm very excited to tell you.
Good.
I'll
Please
hear from
share.
you, but I really want to share this. So,
Oh, I want you to.
earlier this year, I was in a soul coaching program and we did a vision board. So, the woman that was guiding us, she's a friend, and she said, "Don't think about it too much, just pick pictures that you're drawn to." And so I was drawn to a picture. I will hold it up in 1 second. And I finally could not put it on my vision board because finally, when I sat down to do my vision board, the picture did not fit.
Mm.
But I loved it so much that I kept it near my desk. So for those that are watching, I'm going to hold it up. And those that are listening, I'm going to just share what it is. It's a bunch of different human beings, different nationalities,
Oh
all
my
in.
gosh.
Yes, you get it, Jane.
Oh my
All,
gosh. That's
mhm,
great.
yeah, all sitting in their little
Wow.
boxes, neatly tucked into their.
Yeah.
And I want you to share what your mom had to say about that. It's in the book.
Oh,
And when I
yeah.
was reading that, I had chills and goosebumps, and I had to show
Yeah.
that picture.
That's great. Well, the book is in four parts. So part three, which, Dad got the party started, um, the idea came through my sister, who was also in the next room, but to ask Pam if Pam would assist me in communicating with mom and that I could ask her questions. And of course, Pam said, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Why not? So I would set up these sessions with Pam um, to ask my mom questions. And so in part three, as Pam is translating what my mother is showing her, she was talking about, I was saying, well, what's it like? What are you experiencing right now? And what's going on? And mom was explaining it as though she said, you're kind of like looking through a projector and you only see what's in your own little box. And for eons, individuals and human beings have only been seeing what what's in right in front of them, right in their box. And that's your life experience in this little box. And then when you transition or transcend, that's when it all dissolves and you like go, oh my, this is much bigger than this box. And so in essence, it's all about, trying to consciously break out of keeping yourself down in that little box while you're here, and expansion and trying to learn more and grow while you're here, because the more we learn while we're here, then it's almost like we can go to another lesson that perhaps we can't grasp while we're here when we do get to the other
Other
side.
side. I
Yeah.
love that so much. And if you look at this picture too, they're all connected by those rays of light,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
she does
That's
talk about the beingness of all things, the oneness of all things, the unconditional love of God. All
yes,
of that I
absolutely.
personally
Yeah.
found very healing because in my background, I was in a very fundamentalist type religious group for a long time. So, the more I listen to near death stories, the more I listen to stories such as yours, people that have transitioned and are communicating and telling us, you have it all wrong. You know,
Mhm.
this is so much better than, what we've, and death
Right.
was a subject, but when I was growing up, it was kind of taboo. You didn't really talk about it.
Right.
And I think it's still a very uncomfortable topic for many people. And Jane, you've managed to take that and make it a dinner table conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to both of my parents and my big sister too, because, um, I had to get out of my own way. And she told me that. She said, you keep it's like you're squeezing a garden hose and you're stopping the flow, or you're trying to make your foot fit in the shoe like Cinderella. And she was like, go barefoot, you know, um, and don't worry about what anyone else thinks or feels about this journey you're having. It's not going to be for everyone because not everyone is ready to connect with what you have to say, and that's unequivocally okay.
Yeah.
I'm not here to try to change anyone or try to, get them to fit into my box of my beliefs at all. I'm just trying to expand myself so that I can be the best Jane I can be. That's all I'm here to do. And so once it's interesting you asked me that because I'm really working at even getting better. Like every single day, I'm like, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to learn? What lesson is it? And I'm human. I get sassy. I things happen and I'm, have the not the nicest thoughts. Um, but I'm now examining those where before I would just act on them. Now I sort of try to get up out of myself, look down and go, you could do better. You don't need to do that or say that or think that.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
it's yeah, it really is about a higher consciousness and allowing it to kind of show up,
Yes.
you know.
And you know something that you also talked about in the book and with your mom, that the walls of the box is getting thinner,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yes.
So I think that examples of that are these afterlife communications, the near-death stories, that we have all these witnesses and testimonies. We're
Yes.
surrounded right now, at
Yes.
this time on this planet. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's the internet, but I just seem to find these these stories, and it just
Yeah.
amazes me more and more. Your book has also given me a kind of a validation, because I've been a very left brain science kind of person, but I'm also very mystical when it comes to spiritual experiences. I appreciate the supernatural, but I still tend to dismiss it. And recently I've had some experiences where I feel like my grandfather came to me at night
Mm,
twice. But
good.
the reason I dismissed it is because he passed away when I was 4 years old.
Doesn't
I,
matter.
I don't have an active memory. I don't have a active conscious missing. There's no awareness of attachment, and yet it happened twice. And I was like, I imagined it. But then I read your book, and I'm thinking, what if I didn't imagine it?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
great that we are sharing and making these more conversations more mainstream, because there is some kind of sometimes stigma associated, like you
Yeah.
said, with
Yeah.
but those of us who've experiencing it, we know the joy of it, right? So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and Pooja, I think you bring up a really good point, I mean, so much of us, what we're taught
Yeah.
is to look at data and look at
Yeah.
facts and, be logical and, don't be so silly, I mean, you know, boom, 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 boom. And I don't want to live in that space. I want to live in possibility. I want to live in expanded consciousness. I want to live in parallel universes and just really constantly challenging myself to get up and get out and to learn while I'm here. But a lot of people doubt. They doubt the signs because they've been taught that maybe that's weird or it's not really happening. And there's plenty of people that are black and white and will say, well, that's just a bunch of hooey. That's okay. You
Yeah.
don't need to spend time in that
In that
world.
world.
There are so many other expansive things happening right now,
Yeah.
that it's shocking. Like now, it's become very normal to turn on the TV and hear stories that are unique and spiritually based. And
Hmm.
there's TV shows that are dealing with death and afterlife. And
Hmm.
it's become kind of a hot topic, which I love because it's time to understand that death is as beautiful as birth.
Hmm.
It's the beginning of a life and then it's the end of this particular life.
Hmm.
And but it's just as beautiful because we keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
There's, yes, you're sad because you miss the physicality of someone, but boy, oh boy, they're still with us. It's
They're
just
still with
you
us.
just have to figure out how to connect. And the fact that your grandfather's coming to you, I would keep a journal next to your bed.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do get those visitations from your grandfather, um, just say, what is it that you want me to know?
Yeah.
And if whatever it is, don't second guess it. If you
Yeah.
get some stream of consciousness and you just feel, wow, that was my grandfather, you start to smell something that's different
Yeah.
that maybe smells like your grandfather.
Yeah.
Um, You'd be surprised what your little 4-year-old brain will remember.
Yes.
So,
It's
just write those things down. He may be trying to reach you for a particular reason.
Yeah, it happened twice. And I tell you, I woke up in the middle of the night with that presence and I thought, well, that's my mom's dad. And I'm thinking, how on earth do I know?
Mm,
I don't even know how I knew that.
yeah,
So that's,
yeah.
why I was at first dismissive. But after reading your book, I decided, no, if it happens again, I will take it seriously, Jane.
I would take it
So,
seriously now. I
yeah,
would get a picture of him, put it in a frame,
yeah,
put it in a sacred spot in your house. I'd light a candle. I would talk to him.
yeah,
I would pursue that because that's part of like what I'm trying to help people understand and in a very subtle and soft and loving way, show them
yeah.
that there's nothing strange about continuing the relationship. Love never dies. Love
Yes.
never
Never
dies.
dies. Yeah,
So, and scientifically,
yeah,
we are energy, right? So
yeah,
we don't die either. We just
yeah,
transfer energy forms. We go somewhere. Um, so wherever that is that you believe, and in my experience, it's the next room.
yeah,
Some people call it nirvana or heaven. Some people think fade to black. This is all there is. And
yeah.
I just think that's such a small
Mhm,
view, such
mhm.
a teeny tiny, I mean, that's like a speck of sand on the
Yeah,
beach. It's like, how could we just how this is not that I mean, yes, it's special, but
yep,
it is
yes, yes,
certainly not the end. I have living proof of it every single day that I wake up.
that is
And
so amazing, Jane.
yeah, it's great.
I love your story, and
Thank
I
you.
do appreciate what it took for you to get there, though, because when I was
Mm,
reading your book, there was a moment where I did cry
mm,
because I love my mom.
yeah.
Thankfully she's still here, but I can't even imagine. So when you were describing your grief, and even with your older sister, so it wasn't like it's almost like you almost had to go through that to get to this, you
Oh,
know?
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
without a doubt. There would be no book if had I not had the deep grief that I've had
yeah,
and the guidance that I've had from all of those. But there's a reason why all of this has happened. And pretty much, even if it like she kept saying, I was like, well, how are people going to find the book? How are people going to and she's like, oh, don't worry about that. The right people have already find that. They
yeah,
found you. They've found it. And I see it happening all the time. Case
yeah,
in point, speaking with you today. I
yes,
mean, I just got this email from you and you asked me to come on the show. And I'm like,
yep,
oh, I love to go on other people's shows. It's fun for me
yes,
because I get to talk about my journey versus interviewing someone about their journey. I like both sides of it.
yeah.
But
And you've
yeah,
done such an amazing job with your podcast too, because I think that's such a lot of times when I was going through hard times, I wouldn't talk to people, but I would go online and try to find YouTube videos and other people's podcasts and stories and, talking about grief, end of life, death, are very, very difficult topics, Jane. So
yeah,
thank you for serving. Thank you for doing that. I do have one question about that.
sure.
From all the people that you've interviewed, and I've heard one or two that were very, it was very sad, but they did have hope in the end. Are there any insights that you want to share with us regarding the grieving process?
Boy, yeah. I think probably the number one thing that comes up with grief is whether you're the person grieving or whether you are helping to just be there with someone that is in deep grief, is just be there. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to, you know, don't give them platitudes like, oh, they're in a better place, or oh, they're out of pain. Because all that grieving person that's left behind thinks is, I want them here with me. I
Mm,
want that person here by my side. So um, just be. And I really strongly encourage people to ask questions about the loved one that has gone. So,
mm,
say for instance, one of your friends, their mom has just crossed. My favorite thing to do is send them a beautiful card and just say, when you're feeling strong enough, let me take you out for coffee. And I just want you to share all the fun stories and memories you have about your mom.
yeah.
Or even on the show, I'll be interviewing someone, and I just had somebody on a couple weeks ago, and she was telling me about her brother, and I said, "Tell me a fun story about your brother." You know,
Mm,
say their names and talk about them, because people are so uncomfortable with they think they're gonna, make somebody cry or whatever. Doesn't matter. They're gonna cry anyway. So
mhm.
why not show up and be there for them and ask them questions about their loved ones? Because really, they will light up every single time. And if they cry, let them cry. You can cry with them.
Yeah.
Um, but usually a funny story will come out of it. I always like, tell me your favorite memory, or tell me
Mm,
what your brother was like when he was a little boy, and it's just wonderful.
yeah,
So
that's great advice. That's great advice, Jen. And I also have one more question. I know you're also involved in a lot of, work overseas.
mhm.
Is that something you're going to continue doing? I guess
Mm,
you feel like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm very drawn to it, and I don't know, ever since I was a little kid, I would sit on the street corner in this little farm town I was raised in called Deckerville, Michigan, and I would just fantasize about traveling, and I don't mean five-star she hotels and fancy travel. I wanted to go and be in the grittiest parts of the
Mhm.
planet and just kind of be in service and meet people of different cultures. And so that just started happening, and I put it out there, and then I went on a mission, and then I put it out there again, and I went on another one. And so um I love it. I love it. And yes, to answer your question, I'm going to the Congo
So,
um, this July. So we were going to go in March, but there's quite a bit of civil unrest, and it wasn't
mhm.
safe for us to go. So we had to push it back. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And it's with a great organization that really helps all kinds of individuals. And
Yeah.
that's what I love to do. I don't know why. It just really
Yeah.
it's my heart work.
Yes, and I'm going to have everything in the show notes, all the links to where people can find you, your work, your website, your books. I definitely want to make sure that anyone who wants to get in touch with you can do that.
Awesome.
Also, I don't feel like letting you go. I feel like I have so many things to talk
That's
about,
okay.
especially from the book. So I will keep you for one last question. Your mom was giving you signs, and you no
Hmm.
longer need anyone in between, right?
Right.
You can totally feel her now on your
Yes.
own. Yes.
Yes.
Um, so do you want to talk a little bit about the signs she was leaving you?
Sure. Um, Shortly after she left, I started finding dimes everywhere, and I didn't know why or how, or I didn't even, associate them with my mom. But then um, we had a psychic medium that came on the radio station at Halloween, and she was delivering messages to our listeners and back and forth. It wasn't Pam, it was Marissa from LA. And all of a sudden at the end of the week together, I desperately wanted to talk to her about my mom because mom had just transitioned. But I knew she was there to do a job. And she just said, Jane, your mom is leaving you dimes. Have you been finding dimes? And I was like, oh, that's weird. Yes, I have. And she's like, I don't know why. I don't know what she's trying to say or what the significance is. Just know when you find them that they are from her. So I tell my husband, so now he's finding them, and our children are finding them. And every time I tell a friend about it, they would snap a picture and go, look what I found coming out of Target today. So but I still didn't really know the reason, and I was going to mail my dad a package for his birthday, and I was standing at the counter at Office Depot, and I all of a sudden got like a full recall, like a dream recall. And in the dream, my mom was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I propped myself up and I said, "Mom, what is the deal with the dimes?" And she said, "I like to see you smile." And
Oh,
so I'm like, I was so happy. It was so direct, and it wasn't this big holy grail message. It was just a
yeah.
real simplistic, very loving, very mom message. And as I turned to go leave the store, right down at the toe of my right shoe was one shiny dime. I picked it up. I started laughing. I'm talking to my mom the whole way out of the store. So that happened. I also had a manifestation through the eyes of her best friend, which was really cool. And it's only happened that one time. Um, Oof, that was really like I still get
Yeah.
goosebumps when I think about what happened with Ruthie,
Yeah.
but all kinds of cool things. So as these different things were happening to me, I wasn't really writing a book, I was just journaling, right? So I
Mhm.
would write everything down, write everything down. I've got volumes of journals
Yeah.
of these interesting things that were happening, and then I started saying, "I think I'm gonna write a book." I think I might have a book, and one thing led to another, and then my mom is the one that told me I didn't need Pam anymore.
Yeah.
When I was writing the book, I had part 1 is growing up, part 2 is meeting Pam, and part 3 is me, Pam, and my mom. So I thought, "Okay, I've got the book. I'm good." And I had one last session with Pam and my mom just to make sure mom was, happy with the direction of the next room. And Pam's listening to my mom and she's like, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Betty. Okay, I'll tell her. Your mother says that you do not need me, that I've been communicating with you ever since I crossed, and that you
Mm.
can hear me if you will just get quiet, get out of your own way, and just open up to receive this line of communication, you'll be able to do it."
Yeah.
And I freaked. I mean, Pooja, I couldn't write part 4 for probably, I don't know, maybe a year. I
Yeah.
just let it sit there. I was just like, "No, I can't do it. I'm not psychic. I don't have those kind of gifts." And then COVID shut us down and I lost a client. I was doing social media and my husband, I said, "What am I going to do?" And he goes, "You're going to write your flipping book."
Yeah.
And
So
so that started it. And when I finally did open up to receive, um, I'm telling you, it was like a lightning bolt. It was just like I lit my candles like I do and turned on my salt lamp and just meditated and did some breathing and just kind of like asked for her to connect, and it was an automatic download. I was just in here typing so fast and tears streaming down, and I wasn't checking for typos or
Mhm.
grammar or anything. I was just like, "Brr, brr,
Yep.
brr,"
Yep.
and then at the end of the day or like the next day, I would reread it and I'm like, "Well, that's not me. I don't think like that. I don't have those thoughts. This is not, I mean, I'm
Mhm.
way too human." Um,
Yeah.
and so that's kinda how it all came to be. So we're working on the next room too right now.
I saw that. I saw that in
Yeah.
your book. I was gonna ask you if that's coming about anytime,
Yes.
right?
Well, I'm in the process of writing 3 books, but the next room too, I have the guts of it, but it really is a matter of me opening up, and she's ready. Um, I've been a little afraid because we're gonna have to go deeper
Yeah.
than the next room.
Yeah.
But I know that it's necessary, so I have to just be okay with it. She's fine with it. She's ready to go, and
Yeah.
she's got a lot to say.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be some difficult conversations and things
Mm.
that people may not wanna hear.
And
Um, yeah.
and there are parts of that in your first book as well,
Yeah.
which I was reading and I thought, this is a very brave book. If a book can be
Mm.
brave, I mean, it's a very courageous. Sometimes it takes courage to speak your truth. So
Boy, does it ever.
yeah,
Thank you for saying that, and
yeah.
And I will say I had so much trepidation. I was really frightened. Like, what are people going to think? And
Yeah.
I'm from a very, this small farm town, really Christian. Um, you know,
Yeah.
I cannot believe the amount of support that I have received from my little farm town,
Awesome.
Deckerville, Michigan.
Yeah.
They have embraced me. They have propped me up. They have bought the book. They've downloaded the book. They listen to the podcast. They're on my Facebook page. It's been shocking. Like, there's not a week that doesn't go by that my sister Gail doesn't text me and say, "Hey, I got to share this with you. Janice stopped me at the Dollar Tree," or I was at
Yeah.
Target and somebody said,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, your sister's book." And
Yeah.
she'll send me these big long texts, and I don't know them. They're friends of
Yeah.
hers that are 10 years older than I am.
Yeah.
Um, Really cool. Like, that alone gave me the courage to continue because
Yeah.
I was really worried. I was worried about, all my family still lives back there. And what are all these people I
Yes.
grew up with going to say? Like, oh, Jane moved out to California and lost her mind,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
but no, I've got Deckerville. Whoop, whoop. I
Yeah.
love them. They're
And
great.
that's
Yeah.
what I appreciate, Jane, because this is my belief that when we speak our truth, we don't know who's hungry for it. They may
Right.
still be appearing to be in that a rigid system or what have
Yeah.
you, but maybe they've moved on inside and they're longing to hear something that resonates.
Yeah,
So
well, that's
yeah,
very true. Even the little library in Deckerville, carried the book and put it
that's
up on their little website. And when I say a small town, this is maybe 800 people. It's a village. It's not
yeah,
even
yeah,
considered a town.
yeah,
But magnificent human beings live
yeah,
there. And
yeah.
and I'm so, so grateful and so bonded with it. And thank you for saying that. It's so true. We don't know,
No.
none of us know what's going on inside of another human being.
Hmm.
We don't know how they were raised, what they
Yeah,
were taught, or what kind of box they were held into.
yeah,
And we don't know when they're ready to break free.
yeah,
And it's just like, I don't force anyone. There are members of my family that have not read the book.
yes.
And at first, like, I'd say the first couple months, I like got my little feelings hurt. Jane's ego came out to play. And then I was like, why does that matter?
Yeah.
You've got people in Australia that are telling you that it has changed their life.
Hmm.
That is now what has taken and bolstered me and lifted me up,
Yes.
because I am reaching, they're not strangers anymore. They're my dear friends. I've got friends all over the planet now.
Yeah.
So that's exciting to me. And you know what? A good friend of mine said, you know what? Maybe some of these family members, it's too personal. They're
Hmm.
just not ready to relive the pain.
Hmm.
Um, and and now I'm not upset at all. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. I've got a great friend that's never read it, and she's got a voracious appetite. She reads like 5 books at a time.
Yeah.
And although I'm curious, I will not ask her,
Yeah.
because I don't want to put her on the spot or make her feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable. I'm like, oh well, I guess you just, for whatever reason, I have to allow that person the grace
Hmm.
to not be bothered with my book. And it's okay. It's absolutely okay.
Yeah.
Because for everyone like that I'm close with that hasn't picked up the book and read it,
Hmm.
I'm hearing from people, like I said, that have embraced it.
Yeah.
Like you, for instance, the review you wrote for me, my gosh, Pooja, it was like so thrilling to
I
read your review and to know that you absorbed the
yeah.
book.
Yeah.
You got every nuance and everything that my intention was just to be clear and speak to the humans.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I did. But to have it received from people like yourself that really got it, boy,
Thank
that's
you.
wonderful.
I think I ate your book.
Aw,
And I'm probably
that's so
gonna eat
nice.
it again. And
Well, you know what? I read it all the time. I know that sounds weird, and it's not, that isn't attached to my ego. It's because I need to
yeah,
hear
those
what,
lessons.
right. I mean, look at that. Look at these sticky notes here.
Yes.
These are
Yeah.
all, and I'll have a moment when I'm not being as cool as I could be, and I'm like, "Ugh, okay, mom." And
Yeah.
I'll just open it up and I'll say, "What do you have for me today?"
Yeah.
And I'll read the thought that she has, and then I'm like, "Oh boy, I really needed that." I
Mhm.
really needed that because it really is all about peace,
Yeah.
and it's about love, and it's about not sticking your head in the sand, being fully aware of what's going on the planet because we're in a very
Yeah.
tumultuous time, but we all signed up for it. We all knew we were gonna come down here at this time of great change.
Mhm.
Willingly, we knew we were gonna be part of this. Um, but to stay in peace and
Mhm.
to stay in love, even though you wanna, like, sometimes reach through your computer when you read something ridiculous on social media and go, "Are you kidding me?" "Really? Is this really how you feel?" And I just stop myself, and I remember what she's told me, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it."
Mhm.
Allow everyone to learn and grow at their own pace. Give them the dignity to
Yeah.
figure out what it is that they're here to learn. You're not here to change people's minds.
Yeah.
You're here to grow on your own.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, the lessons I've gotten from her are good enough.
Yeah.
The fact that quite a few people are embracing it, that's just the icing on the
Yeah.
cake.
Yeah. Yeah. She said something about what you were saying. She said something about every perspective adds to what already is.
Yes.
And that stayed with me also.
Yeah,
There is
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and even though, like, I know there's so much divisiveness with politics and everything, and the fact of the matter is nobody's right, nobody's wrong.
Yeah.
We're all here, and so I really try to look at individuals that maybe frustrate me, with, and social media can be very bizarre, um,
Yes.
but I look at them and then I really try to take, an attitude of seeing them as a young child jumping in a puddle and, being filled with joy and not hatred. And then, you don't know what's happened to people and what's made them maybe be
Mhm.
aggressively angry or not embrace another human being.
Mhm.
Because really, we're all connected. We are all connected. And once if we don't get it here, that's okay because once we do transcend and transition energy forms, we'll plug back in and then we'll see like, "Oh my gosh, that's my brother, that's my sister,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my best friend. I know you, I see you. Oh, we're all love. Oh my gosh."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's
Thank
pretty
you.
cool. It's a big, big lesson, and it is hard, especially nowadays with, as much as people like to argue and fight. It's like,
Yeah.
that issue is inside yourself. Maybe take a look there
Yeah.
and and figure out why you're so angry.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
So
Um,
thank
yeah.
you so much for sharing all of that. And I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you being here today, Jane. I will
Yeah.
include once again everything in the show notes. Is the website and your email the best way to find you?
Yes, it's just my full name. It's janeasherrainey.com. The book
Yeah.
is there. If you want an autograph copy, I send them out myself. I put a little
Yeah.
thank you note in there and send you a hard copy. And I actually had my mom's signature turned into a stamp. So I sign it, all love Jane, and then I stamp Betty
Betty.
Asher,
Yeah.
which came to me, I was saying, gosh, mom, I wish you could sign this book. It's your book too. It's our collective work. And all of a sudden it was like, boom. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's right, I can." And I went and she always sent me all these cards, and so I had her name, "Thank you, Betty Asher," on all kinds of stuff, and mostly she would sign "Love, Mom," but I wanted to have Betty Asher, and I found her a really nice, clear Betty Asher, and I just had it turned into a
And then
stamp,
to stamp.
and it just gives me such a great joy to stamp her name in each book.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Um, Hey, before we close, would you
Yeah.
like to come on my podcast? I would love to have you on.
Oh my goodness, I would love to, Jane.
Oh, good.
I can't
Excellent.
believe this just happened, but yes.
Oh, good.
That's
I'm
good.
so happy to have you. I mean,
Thank
I
you.
love to have different inspired conversations and the show is fun. I'm up to
Yeah.
10 countries now and I can see the growth each week. I can see the new listeners and the downloads, and it's exciting. It's
Oh,
exciting to offer interesting people with different points of view and put it out there. And, some shows resonate with people, and then other, some people want the hospice stuff, and other people want the right to die issues. And
mhm.
some people want to talk about the pragmatic approach to wills and trusts. So I try to kind of go from soup to nuts, and I love a good woo-woo afterlife conversation.
Yeah,
So
me
yeah,
too. So
that's
thank you
great.
so much. Yes,
You
I would
bet.
love to do that. So,
Yeah, we'll get you scheduled.
all right. Well, thank you once again, Jane, and thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
all the lessons with us today and through your book. And once again, for those that are watching and listening, I will have all the links for everything in the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. My pleasure.
Mhm.